Welcome, everybody. It's great that you stayed, that you are here to join us in this Buddies session. I'm Luca from Public Libraries 2030, and we have 1 hour this morning to talk about the skills that librarians need for community-centered activities in their libraries. I am joined today by a great panel. I'm super happy with the speakers, and I will tell you a bit more about our session in the second, but I will introduce them. So I have my colleague Elisa from Public Libraries 2030. She will talk about the case studies collection we did with Buddies. We have a library hero, Filipa Barros. You saw her yesterday. She's directing the Belém Library in Lisbon, an amazing library, very open to the communities. They do fantastic stuff there, and we are really happy that she's here, and she will talk about one of her recent community-centered and driven initiatives, the Time Bank, which is amazing. And then we have another library hero. He's a bit the shooting star of European library land at the moment, Klaas Gommers, who co-authored and co-chaired the OMC group, the European Expert Group on Libraries, under the current work plan for Caccia, that is now presenting its final report. And they also talk about skills and training needs. And we thought we want to have a research angle, we want to have practice, and we want to have the policy angle. And we want to have you, because this is something we noticed all the time with this fantastic Europe Challenge, because you are working in the libraries and you do this stuff, so we are really happy that we can share our work with you. So I already spoke without moving my slides. So Buddies, maybe you saw the Buddies stand. It was not in the marketplace, but it was a bit further. So it's an Erasmus Plus cooperation partnership project that runs alongside the Europe Challenge. It's an initiative by ECF, Public Libraries 2030, Dokken in Aarhus, and Comic Dom in Greece, a community library. And we really wanted with this program to deepen the mentoring, the training, and the connections around community-centered librarianship coming with the Europe Challenge. So what we do is that we deepen the mentorship strengths that exist also in the Europe Challenge. There are master classes, there are know-how labs, and there is a research part. And today we present you 2 outcomes of this research part. We run a European survey on skills that librarians need for community-centered work in their library, and we also had a case studies collection. And we will use these findings to build more recommendations, but also to use it as an evidence to show at European level, at local level, this is happening, this is what we need. And you will see it's pretty impressive and amazing. Who is here from the Buddies project in the room? So you all follow mentorship strengths. Are there mentors as well? It's really great. This is the colleagues from Aarhus, Dokken, who are working with the mentors. So I don't have so much contact with you, but maybe we can also connect. And also, I saw that there are colleagues from the project partners, maybe? No, they are busy. They are busy, so it's just us. This is what we will do today. I already said it. I will talk a bit about the skills audit survey. Elisa will talk about the case studies. Then we have Filipa, and she will present the Time Bank initiative. And Klaas is giving his OMC perspective. We are looking forward to this. And we will use Slido to ask some questions and to get a bit interaction before we can also engage in a conversation. And I would like you to join the Slido, if you can, because I have a first question for you. It will be also on the this slide. So our first question for you was, what skills does community engaged librarianship need? And with Philippa yesterday we said singing and dancing.
Yes.
So if someone would like to put singing and dancing, this we need. It was really impressive yesterday. So just, okay. That's interesting, because you will see in a minute I will present you the areas and the skills that we worked on, because we did some research, looking also at social work, cultural work, community-based assets, work in cultural places, and these things are part of it. Empathy, confidence, humor, very good. Care. Empathy stands out. That's interesting. We will see how this will feed into the findings that I will present you. Patience is also a big one. We heard this. Thank you. So the Buddies survey, I don't know if anyone took part in our survey. That's great, you too, perfect. So then you will see, it's maybe interesting for you as well to see what is it's the outcome of this survey. So what we were trying to find with this skills audit, that's how we called it, is that we wanted to evaluate with librarians across Europe the main skill sets they used in community-centered work. We also talked about the roles that libraries take on in community building and in engaging with communities. And we were using concepts that are also used in the OMC report, actually. We used the societal challenges, so you will see. So the main question of the survey was actually what libraries do with their communities, engaging, co-creating with the communities, what skills they need and what training they need to do it better. And we also asked for barriers. What is holding you back? So the skills areas that we defined based on our research were community understanding and engagement, facilitation and co-creation, cultural competence and inclusion, civic engagement and information, partnership and collaboration, and impact and learning for the libraries. So these were the skills areas that we asked the librarians to self-evaluate, where they stand, where they would need support, how they assess their team capacity and their individual capacity, which is not always the same. So this was quite interesting. And so then we also talked about the societal challenges related to the roles that libraries take. And this was very useful because we looked at the OMC draft report and we thought this is super interesting. We can combine it and we can see how are the skills matching these challenges. And I will show you what the OMC group defined as the main social challenges. So we have digital divide and digital inclusion, democratic resilience, together with media literacy, social cohesion, community connection, refugee integration and migration, lifelong learning and adult education, mental health and well-being, poverty and economic hardship, and aging population, and also intergenerational learning, which is, we connecting the skills with these societal challenges. So then we asked what the libraries actually do, and I don't know if I said it, we collected over 350 responses, but the quality sample we could use for the survey were actually around 222 from over 30 countries, which is quite amazing. I have to say that the majority came from Denmark and Greece, which is interesting. It's due to the partnership, and the colleagues really mobilized their connections in the countries. So we have, I think, 50 respondents from Denmark and 35 from Greece, which is interesting because they are very different library countries, but now you just see the results all together. You don't see the individual country split. So we asked to rank their main focus, and half of them put learning and culture first and community gathering second. So we thought, okay, this is interesting because it still puts culture and the cultural content and learning first. We also had, and this was surprising, some of our buddies partners. We have civic services and citizen engagement also quite well represented, which is showing a library image and self-perception, which is already a very open role of libraries. So then, for the societal challenges, it's similar. It's reflecting, again, that most of them see lifelong learning as the main challenge or task they take on, access to culture. Then we have digital divide, social cohesion, and democracy and resilience still quite high with 27%. And we feel that this might increase nowadays. And also with our conversations, all the reflections that are happening. So we also asked if libraries made community work central to their identity and their work. And we got the answers that 85% think it's really important, but 15% said it's a core activity of their work. So just showing you a bit. And then this is also a finding that I found interesting, that we were asking about the focus of the library being either a community gathering space or focusing on citizen engagement and participation. And the ones focusing on community gathering did less co-design deeply with the communities, which seems logical, but it's interesting to see. And then we asked what they need, what they want for training, in which areas they feel they could need more support. And I think this is an interesting one. I don't know if you can actually, the screen is so big that you might be able to see it. You can see that the first three points, community engagement, facilitation, and inclusion, are the most important demands for training. And this is also reflecting the focus areas of the libraries. So for us, for the Buddies project, it will guide us also when we do recommendations, and then we can also steer the know-how labs and the mentoring. We can try to reflect these needs. Here you can see again, it's a bit more clear to read. The top priorities are community engagement, facilitation methods. This we also found in other projects that we did more in the digital field, that the librarians were not so much asking for training on technologies, but more on facilitation techniques. So that's, I think, across the board, that's something quite important. So, and this is also an interesting point, that what holds them back the most is the lack of time. Lack of time, lack of structural support, not so much the skills. Important and crucial, but still this support is really important, and this was also perceived differently among library management and staff. So staff, well, I mean, I guess you can imagine. I see nodding faces. And also this was a good feedback for us, that 60% said that they appreciate and wanted peer learning, also at international level, and we are totally up for this. This is what we do and what we think is really important. So just to conclude this snapshot on our survey is that libraries are doing a lot. You know, we are talking about this the whole time, but they need skills, time, and structural support, and they learn from each other. I will now pass on to my colleague Elisa, and she will guide you through the case studies collection, and then we have a moment we can interact and we can talk with Philippa. So, Elisa, I just leave it to you here.
Thank you. Thank you, Luca, and good morning to everyone. So I present you the case studies collection because with the buddies, we didn't want to only survey what skills librarians need, but we also wanted to show what those skills look like in practice. So that is what the case studies collection is about. So we collected 40 cases from 18 countries across Europe. Each case documents a community-led initiative running in a public library. So we show what the library does, who it reaches, what skills it requires, and what other libraries can learn from it. And the cases are grouped into 6 chapters that are based on the main societal challenge each initiative addresses. So the first chapter is about belonging and community, the second one about learning and digital skills, the third about culture, the fourth about democracy and civic participation, the fifth about health and well-being, and the last one about sustainability. So one thing that I noticed while I was sorting the cases into the different chapters is that almost none of them fit neatly into one single category because most of them touch several challenges at once. And I think that is the main interesting takeaway because it tells us something about what libraries have become. So libraries are clearly not just about books anymore, but they are places where a lot of different social, digital, and environmental topics overlap. And this collection really shows that. While I was reading through all of the case studies, something else became clear. So beyond the diversity of countries, context, challenges, all of these cases share a few things in common. So first of all, many of these initiatives are built with communities and not just for them. So libraries start by asking people what they actually need. So they start with real needs. And then they step back and let people lead. In fact, a lot of initiatives are led by volunteers and the residents themselves. So the libraries act more as a facilitator because they create the public space and then the community feels it. Another thing is that many initiatives reach people that are often left out, like refugees, older adults, young people from marginalized communities, people with disabilities, prisoners from communities. So this really proves that libraries are among the very few truly open, non-judgmental, and welcoming public spaces we have in our communities. And the last thing is that many libraries do all of this with very little. So they start with recycled materials, they rely on volunteers and small partnerships, and that is encouraging because it means that a lot of these ideas can be replicated. That is the whole point of this collection. So let me give you a few examples so you can understand all these points. So the first example that I'd like to share with you is called Our Garden. It's an initiative led by the main public library in Antwerp called the Bibliotheek Permeke. So it is about a community garden where every week a group of women, mostly immigrants and refugees, meet at the library to grow plants and spend time together. And the garden has 3 layers. So it is a herb garden because women grow plants together. But it's also a healing garden because this space is designed for women, by the women themselves, to be a safe, calm environment that really belongs to them. And it's also a narrative garden because these women use seeds from their home countries, but the activity of growing plants together, it's just the starting point to share personal stories about migration, about memory, about their new life in Antwerp. So on the surface, it's a garden, but in reality, it's much more. It's about belonging, well-being, and it's also about language improving and learning, because during this meeting, the women speak Dutch, so it's also an occasion to improve their Dutch. So I placed it in the first chapter, Building Belonging and Community, but as you can see, it really touches a lot of different topics at the same time. Another case that I'd like to share with you is the Netrevalok program led by the Metropolitan Ervin Szabo Library in Budapest. So the idea behind this case is simple. Secondary school students help older adults with digital skills, so in using smartphones, apps, tablets, and online platforms like e-government services. The libraries provide the structure and the space because sessions take place regularly in multiple branch libraries. There is no fixed curriculum because participants bring their everyday challenges. And what makes this case so interesting is that it works both ways. So older adults gain confidence, improve their digital skills, and also reduce the isolation that the lack of digital skills bring. But at the same time, young people gain a meaningful civic experience. And since 2024, this model has expanded from Budapest to 44 libraries across Hungary. And the reason is that it's super easy to replicate because it requires almost nothing, just a space with internet access and the right partnership with the local schools. Another case that I think is interesting and captures well everything that I was saying is called When Local Youth Help Engage Their Neighborhood in Local Democracy, that is led by Astro Library in Aarhus, Denmark. So this library worked with a 9th grade class in a culturally diverse neighborhood with low democratic participation. And the goal was to help students organize a real election debate at the library before the 2025 municipal election. But the deeper goal was to strengthen their democratic knowledge, their confidence, and the sense that their voices matter. So the library staff visited the class 5 times, teaching about democracy, power, debate, and respectful conversation. And the students then made the real decisions. So they decided which topics to debate, what questions to ask, and how to make it a good event for their neighborhood. And the library handled what would have been too demanding for students. So the library coordinated with politicians and managed the logistics. 10 politicians took part and 70 local residents attended. And the most meaningful parts of the project for students was having, first of all, talking about politics, because they were not used to talk about this topic, but also having adults listening to them and paying attention to their perspective. And there is one more case in the collection that I'd like to share with you because it captures well all the points that I made. That is the library's time bank at Biblioteca de Belém in Lisbon. But we have Filippa here, the coordinator of the library, so I'll give the floor to you so you can tell us more about this experience. Thank you.
Hi. So the time bank is a model that happens all over the world. Some of you might already know about it. What I think it's less common is that the libraries host a time bank or even organize a time bank. The model is very simple. You gather a group of people that become members of this time bank, and people, as they register for free, of course, they tell you what they can give, what kind of skills they have, they want to share, they love to do, and what they need or they would like to learn or to receive for someone else. what really interests us, and the thing that drove us to say, okay, let's try this and not a volunteer bank or something like that, is that the time bank obliges people not only to give but also to ask. So people tend to come in and only want to give, which is something that might surprise some people that might thought it would be the other way around. But no, the majority of people want to give something to someone else, and they're very uncomfortable in the other way around. And asking, especially asking a stranger, asking someone that they don't know. For something that might help them. So the time bank has some kinds of rules. I'm not going very deep, but only to say that the exchange coin is time. Of course, it's called the bank just to make this parallel, but time is the currency. And you cannot have over 20 hours. It's the maximum of time that you cannot go over without balancing your account. So if you have given 20 hours, you have to start asking for some hours. And you have a coordinator of the time bank, which is, then I will tell you more about it, which is a volunteer, in this case, a neighbor from the community. She was the one that came in with the idea and asked us if we would like to just embrace this adventure. And she with a librarian from our library, every Wednesday they are phoning people that are members and saying, look, there's someone else that's a register. She's an Italian, for example, and you wanted to learn a bit more Italian. Do you want to come and just have an exchange of a conversation? This never substitutes professional work, so it's always about exchanging moments. And it's a really amazing, I think, initiative, because it made absolute difference. The library is not the same now than it was 1 year ago. We started in September and it's completely different. I really, really recommend. So if you want to know more, just come and talk to me and I will explain.
Thank you, Philippa. Yeah, that's great. Because, we collected this case study and we spoke with you and we really thought that this is such an interesting example. And in this session, we talk about skills, right? And we think there must be challenges also to collaborate with the library staff and the volunteers. So maybe you can tell us a bit about the skills your team needs to develop and to accompany this initiative.
So yeah, that's a good question, because it not only changed the library as a landscape, but because you can see that it's truly, I've never seen in such a obvious way the occupation of people of the library. So now I can go in the library and I see many things happening that I don't know anything about. It's just the time bank members using the space to do their own exchanges. But that started I will use a word that's not the one that I want, contaminate, but in a good way, you know, the staff. And the staff was at the beginning was like, what is this? And but slowly they started understanding and they started getting more interest and even actively becoming members their own of the time bank. The brilliant thing, I think, it's when the staff understood how they could even ask for help for the time bank to the time bank members. And one day, I can tell you this story because I think it answers your question. I remember there was a mediator of the library who wanted to host a exchange market for children, and she organized everything. But it was a big event, and we were very understaffed. And I was like, Susanna, be careful, see what. And then when I got in, I saw what she did. She started asking the Time Bank members and also the cycling community that we have and also the ONG that we have as partners. And suddenly they were all like minions helping this event. So she understood that she's getting really tired, and she started talking about the event with Time Bank members, and they were so enthusiastic about it, and they started offering help. And so they helped with the check-in of the materials of the market, and it was really a beautiful day in the library where everyone was there, and they were contributing and they were enjoying themselves. So I think this asking for help was really something that a kind of skill that Time Bank brought in to librarians to apply and to train more and to trust people that they didn't. And also to get themselves in another position that is not only to become service, donating services. The staff also is asking for help. So that's, I think, a good way.
That's interesting. Maybe Elisa, because I know that you've been also working on looking at the skills that were used or identified by the people who contributed with these case studies collections. Maybe you also want to share something about this, what stood out for you, what you noted most?
I think a lot of collectors selected almost all of them. So really a variety of skills. It's difficult to just choose one skill because in this kind of projects where you are involved with people, one skill is not enough. You really need to facilitate, but also connect people across culture, and as I was saying before, also sometimes lead back, step back, and let them, because you create the space, you create the situation, and then sometimes the learning happens between them. So also that was interesting to notice, I think.
Thank you. And maybe before we go and talk about more the European policy angle, I wanted to ask if you have questions about this Time Bank initiative. Did you hear about it before? Do you have experiences with this concept? I will throw the microphone, because I was curious. I thought I knew the Waffle Bank we have in Brussels. It's also working with time, and it's more used by urban activists. But I didn't know that it was done in libraries, so I will start throwing it like this.
I'd love to hear some examples of things that people offer, and is there a problem where there's some skills that are oversubscribed and everybody wants to garden and nobody wants to do something, is there any, what do you need and what do you have too much of, and how does that balance?
That's a great question, and I'm very happy to say there's not a shortage really, because what we see is that people bring in, this is another really wonderful thing, when you do the interview to a member, I'm always amazed, because you never expect what people will say that they want to give or will say that they want to receive. So I can give you examples, the ones that I love the most. Soup, one journalist. She was highly graduated, doctorate, and she said, what I really don't know how to do is a soup. Can anyone help me do it? For sure, someone can help you. Then another one, lots of exchanges on language. So that's something that is happening a lot. And another beautiful story was when a newcomer family came into the library and heard about the Time Bank, and we sat with them, and they decided to become members, the three of them, the father, the mother, and the child. And all of them have something to give. But the mother wanted to open, how do you say? to cat hairs,
Yeah,
a hairdresser, yeah. And she said, I really need to practice. So we started phoning time bank members, and lots of people wanted to become, the the mouse for the hair. And so she's cutting everyone's hair, and before she opens her own shop. So these kinds of things is what really pumped us with the time bank, because sometimes we talk about this theoretically, or okay, it's another volunteer dynamic, but it's not. It's different. It's so open that anything can come and happen and surprise you. In that sense, that is very important nowadays, which is to pair yourself with a stranger, care of a stranger, not only of people that you know, and be able to become amazed and surprised beyond the face that you see.
And you used also this concept of strategic intermediator. So maybe you can say something.
The really key piece of this work. It works because Mariana, she has a name. She's the volunteer that came in with the idea, and she's a neighborhood, and she's a neighbor from the neighborhood, from the community around, and she knows a lot of people. And she's the coordinator, and she's this privileged intermediator, as we call it, because she knows how to bring in new members, and she's always advocating for this. Without Mariana, this wouldn't have been the same. So this is a key factor if anyone wants to open a time bank. Really choose these mediators from the community. They will spread the word, and they will take care of the people and these connections.
And you receive some guidance methodology,
yeah,
right?
There's a time bank agency, a national one, and they gave us the first training on, the methodology. But that's very simple. You can check it out in your own country.
I have one question. No, go ahead.
Hi. We are also having a time bank, something like this, but not in the library, but in the community group. And what I saw is that at the beginning it was such a huge interest. Like a lot of people wanted to join and wanted to give, wanted to receive everything. But with the time, the interest fell, and like a lot of people were like, oh, I don't have time now, I will give maybe tomorrow, maybe in a month, maybe in a week. So I was just wondering, what was your experience about it? Like, did the interest fell, or people are still engaged a lot?
Yeah, it's still rising. But how long is your time bank?
Oh, it's going for a few years now.
For a few years.
Yes.
I don't have that experience.
Okay.
So you're further along. Yeah. But what I see as key factors for not letting this go down is two things. First, that the coordinators, Mariana, this volunteer, and our staff, once a week, without you have to commit, are phoning the members to just stirring things up. Do you remember you asked for example, burlesque? There's someone that came in and said, I know how to a bit of burlesque, and that lots of. And the other thing is do group exchanges. Yeah. So that they know themselves and start a community sense. And so now these time bank members, they are a community. They go and they do walks together, and we manage to reserve free tickets for the museums for all of them.
It's
so
the
group exchanges, they really keep the things going. Yeah. So you have to have these dynamics so that the community doesn't.
We have the group. I mean, there is some individuals that are still going on even years after, but if you want to spread, like, it's not really going well. I mean, I know that I was offering also something, and I was receiving something, and by the time, it's like, it's really hard to persist.
Yeah, I can only just another example that I think might help is we started merging the time bank with other initiatives in other projects.
Okay.
And for example, retired teachers that came in as members, they told us, do you know any kid that needs help? And we said, oh, You have opened the door that you don't know,
A
and we
lot.
started going to the schools where there are also migrant young people. Some and the schools prioritize. They told us a list. There are schools that people don't have money to pay for these kind of services, and so we started a parallel project, which is exchanges of scholar teaching help assistance. Especially to migrant young people, and totally free. And so this spreads to the parents, this spreads to the teachers. The school has become a member of the Time Bank because you can have institutional. So it's spreading all around. So keep on the spreading, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Where are you from?
Croatia.
Okay, which city?
Zagreb.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. Filipa, thank you. We can talk about it later, but I think we have to move on and to speak with Klaas and to ask him to give us his perspective, also taking into account what you just heard. I mean, we talk about skills in community-centered community librarianship. What's the place of this topic in the OMC report, and what is your reaction to this?
It's really at the heart of the report. The first question we got is, what are the multiple roles of public libraries and how can you strengthen, promote them and make them more visible? And quite early on, we realized, well, we can name all the roles and we can name all the challenges, but the key question is, what do libraries need in order to fulfill these roles and in order to really feel strengthened? Because the heart of the report is everything which we are describing is being done by librarians throughout Europe. What has amazed me most is that, and very interesting to see the results here, is that across Europe, that transformation of libraries has been so similar. Obviously, some libraries are less staffed or are very big, or city or rural, but the essence of it, being that community-oriented, being able to respond to libraries. Digital inclusion is an example where a lot of library folks say, well, the first computer in the 90s was in the library, in our community. We gave that access. So it's also not new. We're not describing the future, we're describing what it is right now. What has been quite interesting to have a discussion in the group, how we investigated this, is to say, look, you can look at the single role of a public library, whether it's a makerspace, or it's your collection, or it's a seed library. You can look at having multiple roles. So within a library, you would go left to the makerspace, right to the seed library, or you can go straight to the book collection. And we said you actually want that path of growth to have those roles being integrated. And I feel there's the community comes in, because that determines, if we look at all the best practices, if we look at all the discussions, what the community needs is what the library is activated on. If you have a large group of minorities or multiple languages, that will alter your library. If you're in a big city or if you're in a rural area, I'm a big fan of the library buses. A library bus in the heart of Amsterdam would be a very bad idea, knowing traffic here. But it's that integrated roles and then prioritizing. So what are the key societal challenges here? What are the key role we need to play in our facility here? Whether you're a big branched out library or you're that sole provision, which is still in some areas, the sole place that people actually can come to. And translating that, and when we looked at what training needs and practices are there, where can we learn from? We saw a bunch of legislation which really explicitly said library skills and professions. We know also that can be, in some places, not helpful, because if it's too put in black and white, these are the skills you need to have. Every librarian needs to be skilled to look at metadata, or it could also be held against you a bit in terms of your professionalism. a bunch of countries, and that's I found most interesting, really have library development plans. And part of that plan's looking at how do we want to develop our library, and the librarians being at the heart of that. There's a few, we didn't actually find so much across borders, a bit in Scandinavia, a bit in the more southeastern part of Europe, where, especially if you look at some languages being more overlapping or historical cooperation of librarians interacting. Obviously there's Erasmus Plus, and but what I think is the key question for us to ask after the OMC report here is, yes, 60% wants to have more peer learning, want to interact throughout Europe. How can we deepen that so that you don't just come here to the Amsterdam Library or another library in the Netherlands, have a tour, being like, oh great, you also have a seed library, I have a seed library as well, but have engaging conversations like this. You had the time bank, I had the time bank. What happened in 3 years? What happened in 5 years? Can you really get so specific to define your needs in order to organize that peer learning more strategically? With part of being integrated of your library development plan, I think.
Thank you.
That's an answer.
But I also felt, listening to Philippa and looking at the conversations, is that libraries need freedom and space and well, time, but they need also policies and directors who let them develop things. So there must be a space, and then you go and you fill the space with the communities. So that's a tricky one, because how can you frame this? I mean, you need lots of skills to do this, but you also need the will to leave the libraries free in their program development. And can you say something about this?
Yeah, what I find interesting myself is the urge that librarians have to be helpful, to respond so quickly. And sometimes I think we should be better at naming responsibilities where it lies elsewhere. So the digital gap is increasing because a lot of organizations choose to be only digital. So we feel an urge to help people to get on that digital highway. One of my favorite examples is the digital zebra in Berlin, being a literal zebra crossing that path. But we should call out sometimes a bit more, saying, look, you're choosing to be digital, and this is the impact we have on society. So don't put everything on your shoulders that you're responsible for, but at the same time, deeply invest in the community. And that, I think, is where the time needs to be created, because then it's also not... I love the example coming from someone from the neighborhood, saying, this is something I think is great, we should be doing. And then I feel if the neighborhood asks this question, it's from a library perspective, you need to engage because it's your peers, rather than a staffer or a director or someone else saying like, we should do a seed library. Well, can we organize a response or not? And I think it's also what I see in the US. If I've asked a question there, how are you doing? How is it going? They said the more we invested in the community over the years, the better we're doing now. Because there is understanding what we're doing, we're being connected, and any attempts of making us political are useless, because people are like, well, this is our library, what are you talking about? We understand what's going on.
We have a question for you in a second about partnerships, because this is also, you just mentioned it, libraries getting in partners to fulfill roles or to take on content and programs. I suggest that we go and ask you again to use the Slido. We have, following our exchange, we thought it would be interesting to hear from you. It's a bit similar than the first one, but it's a bit more focused in the libraries that you know best, because I think that there are not only librarians in the room. Which skills areas do you feel are the most underdeveloped? If you could go on the Slido and rate them, the ones you see here: community engagement, facilitation, co-creation, cultural competence, civic engagement, partnership, collaboration, and impact and learning. That's interesting because this, well, we will give you a bit more time. Maybe not everybody is connected yet. It's still changing. Yeah, it's still changing.
I think it's interesting, of the 80 best practices which will be in the report, I think there's almost none that is without partners. And curating that partnership obviously is important, but it's struck me so interesting to see that there's almost, it's a default to do something in partnership.
Yeah. For this one, it's reflecting for the two first points. It's still changing. It's the two first points that came also out of the survey. Partnership and collaboration were rated higher in terms of capacity by the libraries, but it's interesting, maybe we can talk about it. Who rated partnership and collaboration high? Maybe you can explain why you put this. And you can tell us where you're from and from which library.
I should make a caveat that I'm not from a library, but I would be from a partnership or a collaborator looking to work with libraries.
Okay.
And I often see that this is an underdeveloped skill, both structurally, so from directors, librarians being able to have that space to actually say, we want to work with a partner, we want to bring someone in and have them be in our space and offload some of that skill or some of that time that we might not have. But I think I am regularly coming back to an imagination crisis of what types of partnerships can be in libraries, both from the partnership and collaboration side, but also from the library side of how do we not just open our makerspace for more hours, but really think about what is this space that we have here, who are the people in it, what are those community needs, and how can we have a more creative partnership and collaboration. This is thinking for the engagement stuff, but of course there's lots of partnerships and collaborations that are critical and less creative and imaginative as well.
That's interesting. With Public Libraries 2030, we are currently on a Horizon project on modular fashion maker spaces in public libraries, and there we develop really guidance and toolkits how to engage the local communities to build these maker spaces. So maybe you can check it out on our website. It's super interesting. So we have another question on those partnerships. So I move on to the next one. This would rate types of partnerships, which connection most strengthens libraries' community work. So it's a bit less open. I invite you to indicate what you think, and then we can get more explanation when we see what comes up. It's always interesting to see how it's moving. Okay. Surprisingly, the local government comes up. Klaas, can you maybe react on this? This would be interesting.
What I find happening is the shift from thinking from within the building you have, which is a very important infrastructure, to really reaching out to places that you're not, and not just with buses, but really that community work, understanding. And I think therefore that's what I'm seeing with the informal community groups, really who have been part of their neighborhood for so long, and local government understanding what is the structures and who is the persons that come up to us and say, we want something in our neighborhood, we want something in our village. And how do you, being helped as a library to create that partnership. But we also see local government really still less than national government and European especially, but really understanding to full extent the role of public libraries in strengthening their communities. So sometimes have a bit of a older-fashioned image.
Yeah, we can see also linked to developments and cultural policies that in some countries there is, again, a stronger focus on reading, that libraries have to focus in their programs.
Well, and it's even when we look at the summers coming on, our library is part of a heat plan locally, understanding if people need refuge from their hot houses or hot spaces. Just even understanding a basic role which is everywhere without having to do anything else. So I think there, within their strategies, local governments can play a key role in positioning a library, and from which you can have a jumping point to move on.
Thank you, Klaas. Maybe from the audience, who else put local government as strong partner? Maybe I take Emanuele because he's part of the Buddies project. I'm curious.
Thanks. Well, I don't work in a library. I think it was just a pragmatic answer. I think money when I think local government, and I run some organizations that need money from the local government.
Okay.
So in my understanding, because of understaffed libraries and because of limitations, having more money helps. It helps every time. So yeah, I'm wondering if it's also something that can help having a collaboration with the local government, trying to be a tiny bit more like lobbying, let's say, as a word. I know it's a bit a negative thing, but in the end, that's what also is needed, I think. Also in terms of skills in the library staff.
Okay, interesting. It's a slightly different interpretation than the direction we were thinking, because we were also thinking about the links and involvement with the community. Who else put local government high? You? Do you want to explain?
Yeah. So I was thinking about, like what you said before, with sharing responsibility. So librarians are used to feeling worked out all the time and understaffed and so on. And I think this is, for public libraries at least, the local government has a big say. Because I work in a specialized library right now, but I used to work in public libraries, and it's really hard, you know, even if you want to buy a pen.
That's something Elisa also found, that they do a lot with very little, linked to the budget issues. Philippa, how is it in Lisbon?
Don't get me started.
Do you feel that there is support for these kind of open initiatives that you are launching in your libraries?
From the government point of view, yeah, there's a support, an implicit support. I mean, we're part of a municipal network, and there's no, you know, there's freedom to program and there's freedom to move forward, but it's also very dependent on what we can do with nothing. We have these kinds of problems. We cannot buy anything. We don't have a budget to program anything, and we do programming with partnerships of people that don't need money. Because if they do, for example, we don't go and ask artists to come and do a performance that we cannot pay. But we do try to create synergies that are really giving back something to the people that come in. Yeah, the buildings are really bad. There's lots of problems, and I'm sure everyone has passed through that. So there's a support in the sense that it's also, sometimes it's easy to support something that has its own way to create things without nothing. I'm sorry to, I don't know if there's a member of it. Don't play this on YouTube.
We can see this in Brussels as well, that the government relies on citizen initiatives to solve local problems, and they go quite far with it. We have 2 minutes left. We can have one more question to one of our great speakers. Is there anything you would like to ask in this space? Someone? Yes, please.
So I work in a music library in Greece, and our project was about getting the deaf and hard of hearing community into the music library, and breaking this stereotype that deaf people don't care about music and they can be part of the musical culture. And this was our first time doing such a truly co-design project. And it's really hard, you know, to step aside and be less of an expert and take seriously what people who are not experts have to say. And I'm always troubled about how do you keep the balance from taking the expert opinion. You know, you have the experience, you have the skills, you have the knowledge, but then the needs and the reality of a community is theirs. And so how do you balance this?
Maybe we can have you, Philippa, answering this last, and then we can have a final.
Okay, so the balance would be between what the community tells you they need and what you are ready to give, or what you thought you would give.
What you thought, yeah.
Okay, yeah, you have to train yourself to let go. I mean, you have to, when you propose that to a community, you have to be honest and ready for whatever they say, and also. Be honest also in the sense that you can present yourself as someone that will try to facilitate something that you don't know if you can. You can say that and be honest about it also. I don't know if I can, but I will try as much as I can to facilitate that. So it's a very humble position. It's an humble position. Just train that and trust that it will be amazing. It will be the most amazing thing that you can do as a public servant.
We thank you, Philippa. We are out of time. I let Klaas have a final word, and then I thank the audience for their presence.
I think, so in the report we state multiple times that libraries are an essential service that everyone has to be guaranteed access to. And I would strongly advise to the skills we need. It's not a nice to have, it's a need to have. And indeed, I'm impressed with the amount of libraries are able to do with skim budget, but at one point, making very explicit, we cannot deliver without this. This is all we're doing. We are a vital structure of your infrastructure, especially in the challenging times ahead. You have a responsibility as a government, as a partner, as a library as well themselves. But be bold about it, I would say.
So this is a great message, and we take this to Brussels. And yes, thank you very much for joining us today.